Those who scale the pinnacles of glory have the furthest to plunge into the abyss. Welcome to Warhammer 40K Darktide. Developer Fat Shark's follow-up to the incredible Vermintide 2, Darktide is one of my most anticipated games releasing this year, and after participating in the closed beta this last weekend, I'm happy to report that it is freaking incredible. In this video, I discuss my impressions of Darktide over footage of my very first mission in the game, so if you enjoyed the video, consider leaving a like and subscribing. We are slowly but surely marching our way to 4K, so only 10 times more subs than that, and we'll be at 40K like this game. Easy peasy. Let's dive in. Like Vermintide, Left 4 Dead, and Back 4 Blood before it, Darktide is a first-person cooperative action game where you and your friends battle countless enemies to complete different objectives and missions. Taking place in Warhammer 40K, it's about as grimdark and violent as you can get, and I absolutely love it. Even knowing next to nothing about the setting like me, it's still a beautiful backdrop of endless machinery, cult activity, religious symbology, and a sort of retro futurism. And it is beautiful. The very first thing I noticed was these stunningly gorgeous visuals, level design, and overall atmosphere. I seriously cannot overstate how much I love the environments and setting in this game with some really epic scenes and set pieces. You play a squad of inquisitorial agents investigating chaos infiltrations on the planet Atoma Prime in the hive city of Tertium. I think I said that right. Basically, it boils down to you being sent on seemingly suicide missions to root out the chaotic infestations and cleanse the different areas of the hive city of heretics. Unlike Vermintide, which featured 5 distinct and established characters, Darktide features a surprisingly in-depth character creator. Within it, you can choose some backstory elements, such as what planet you're from or what your childhood was like, and as far as I can tell, it doesn't really impact anything gameplay-wise, but it's just a really awesome addition for roleplay, which Warhammer or RPG fans should enjoy. Your appearance, your voice, and of course your class is chosen here as well. Darktide features 4 distinct classes, each with their own unique abilities and teammate buffs, and again, unlike Vermintide, which locked you out of certain characters depending on who your teammates were, allows you to choose any class and have any combination within a mission. I actually really like this change, as it's never fun to be locked out of your preferred class just because someone selected it first. However, it will create some interesting moments where you may not be entering with the most ideal team makeup. The classes include Psyker, think Professor X but more psychotic and with working legs, the Veteran, your standard long-range gun-toting damage dealer, the Ogre, the thick tanky boy, and finally the Zealot, a missionary who spreads the gospel of the Imperium by smashing it into the heads of heretics with a large sledgehammer. I really enjoyed playing the Psyker, as they are effectively the magic user of the setting, and popping heads with psychic powers and force pushing enemies away was just way too much fun. The classes are diverse enough though that I think that almost anyone could find a playstyle they will enjoy. However, the class alone doesn't really lock you into your playstyle, as Darktide features a wide range of weapon types and customizations for those to cater to your playstyle. Want to be a tanky in-your-face brawler or a hard-hitting sniper? It's really up to you, but the class choice is pretty critical here. Speaking of weapons, as expected, combat in Darktide feels visceral, brutal, and extremely satisfying. Anyone that's played Vermintide can speak to just how good the first-person melee combat feels in that game, with swords slashing and dismembering a bloody path through enemies and blunt weapons and hammers cracking into skulls, and Darktide continues and builds upon this excellent combat system with new animations, details, weapons, and enemy types. Being 40K, the big difference is of course guns, being much more common and a necessary part of yours and the enemy's toolsets. And I'm happy to report that gunplay feels just as satisfying as the melee combat, which is really saying something. They did an excellent job of making guns feel weighty, packing a massive punch, and cutting through enemies efficiently, especially things like the auto shotgun. The devs have focused on a hybrid combat system with the ability to easily swap between melee and ranged weapons and smoothly engage different enemy types as needed. I'm not really sure yet if the enemies are as fun to cut through as the Skaven and Vermintide, because those big rats are just way too much fun to kill, but there's definitely a lot of variety in the enemy design, and just like Vermintide, I don't think it's ever going to get old holding the line with your friends against an endless horde, watching body parts and the blood fly. Visual and audio design excels in the combat as well, and overall, I was extremely happy with how the combat felt, and seeing as how that's 99% of what the game consists of, it's the most critical part of its design. The classes of course specialize in different weapons and abilities, which further differentiates and adds variety to the gameplay. Like the saying goes, teamwork makes the dream work, and co-op is key, just like Vermintide. Honestly, maybe even more crucial than Vermintide and Darktide, as your unique ability abilities and auras play into staying near allies, and toughness, the shield-like HP bar that can regenerate and block damage, is recharged when standing near allies. This, in addition to special enemies that can incapacitate you, makes you at least want to stick in a duo, but really sticking by all of your squad mates is ideal, especially on the harder difficulties, and it's just generally a good idea to stick together to have more bullets and blades to deal with the hordes. Communication and coordination are critically important, again, especially in higher difficulties, and this is definitely a game best played with friends and microphones, but there's a pinging type of system that allows you to communicate quickly without necessarily talking. As I said, there will be hordes of many different enemy types, and I mean hordes. You get absolutely swarmed by enemies in this game, and it creates a very chaotic but extremely fun and engaging gameplay loop, as you never really know when they're coming, and then audio cues happen, music kicks up, you feel your blood rush, and you just go to town. And I really enjoyed just experiencing each kind of enemy for the first time. My one gripe in this area though is that special enemies didn't stand out as much as say Left 4 Dead or Vermintide, where if there was a smoker or boomer or rattling gunner nearby, you definitely knew it. Darktide was almost too chaotic and noisy at times to really understand if specials were present and killing your allies, so I'd like to see their distinct callouts and noises amplified. But this may have also been just me being new to the game and not fully understanding what the visual or audio cues of special enemies were, so we'll have to see how that plays out. But this is a complaint I've seen from other players. Speaking of sound though, the soundtrack is absolutely insane, with lots of futuristic techno-like beats and synths mixed with unbelievably epic fantasy-like choirs and acoustics sprinkled throughout it.
A veteran should be a killer.
Punks beneath my heel!
It just creates such a cool atmosphere and gripped me almost immediately. I actually loved it so much that I immediately looked up who composed it and was not really surprised to see it was done by Jesper Kyd. I think that's how you say his name, but he is an absolutely phenomenal composer, best known for his work with the iconic Assassin's Creed themes and soundtracks. I seriously cannot say enough about how good the music is already, and I'm so excited to hear more. Okay, now that I've gushed on and on, there were a couple issues that I'll highlight as well. Now, it is a closed beta, but even being that, I was really impressed with how stable things appeared to be. I only had minor graphical bugs and issues, and some odd behaviors like enemies spawning immediately in front of me, and strange audio cues that seemed misplaced, but there was really nothing game breaking. I didn't have any crashes to desktop, no disconnections, and as far as stability, it was just really good. However, performance was an issue for many players, and I had to tweak quite a bit to get a more comfortable frame rate, and even with that, in effects heavy areas with lots of fire and lots happening, there was noticeable hitching and slowdowns, and I've seen lots of reports of worse happening for other people. There is definitely more room for optimization and performance improvements with Darktide. The other issue is the UI and general screen clutter. This is an extremely messy UI in almost every way, and while stylistically I loved it, there was just so much information that I honestly had no idea what it was even trying to tell me at times. I brought this up in my Modern Warfare 2 beta impressions, but I have no idea what is happening with video game UX design lately. I know it's generally easier and more profitable to be a designer in basically any other industry than gaming, but this is a dying art form apparently, because lately I feel like so many interfaces are just awful. Now, this isn't nearly as bad as that or Battlefield 2042 in my opinion, but I've seen lots of feedback on this already, so I really hope the teams at Fat Shark can kind of give the UI another pass and really tidy up the interface and polish it before release. There's so much more I could talk about here, but this is just intended to be my closed beta impressions. It's not a full review. There's a lot more here. There's the contracts you can take, the mission structure, the hub world, but I just wanted to quickly provide my thoughts while it was so fresh in my mind. And with my schedule, these videos do take a lot to put out, so I always appreciate when I get responses and views. It's just so awesome to see the engagement. But overall, Warhammer 40K Darktide was an incredibly good time. I'm happy to say so far it looks to live up to the pure chaotic fun of Vermintide 2, and after playing it, it definitely remains one of my most anticipated games of the year, and I look forward to diving back into its dark, oppressive, but beautiful world. Let me know your thoughts on Darktide if you tried it or not, and that's it for me. Thanks for watching. Until next time.
The roughnecks of beast.